Chapter 1291. A wedding. The tremors were especially felt by the Emperor of Abyss, whose level of cultivation was the highest in the hall. At the moment he stood up, he coughed up a mouthful of blood, and with a swing of his arm, he turned into a long arc that rushed out of the hall. What happened? Once he left, the faces of the other cultivators turned pale. Two people even had blood trickle out of the corners of their mouths. The roars of the true world echoing in space had affected their veins, and as their veins trembled, they were injured. This is the true world's will roaring in pain. At the instant the Emperor of Abyss looked towards the galaxy, his face turned pale, and he sucked in a sharp breath. In the Abyss Paragon Palace lived the sublime paragon of the Emperor of Abyss True World. There was a man dressed in a purple long robe there, with his appearance occasionally changing. A breath ago, he was a teenager, and a breath later, he became an old man. In between breaths, he would occasionally turn into a middle-aged man. This man was currently standing respectfully in the palace, and before him was Xianxia, sitting and meditating with a calm expression on his face. Dressed in white robes, Xianxia sat with indifference on his face. He stared at the chessboard in front of him while holding a black chess piece in his right hand. Once he placed it down, he looked at the black-robed middle-aged man sitting across from him. The man had long hair, and it spilled over his shoulders. There was an air of someone who looked down on the world about him, and there was a powerful, mighty pressure spreading out from him, causing the sublime paragon, who was behind Xianxia, to feel his heart tremble slightly. To him, the black-robed man felt like a tiger crouching in its seat while the sublime paragon himself had become immortal. Sovereign of Dawn, it's your turn. Once we finish this round, we should head to my child's wedding. The preparations there should be about ready now. Xianxia smiled faintly. The black-robed man before him was naturally the strongest person who had descended from Dark Dawn's camp, the sovereign of Dawn Yangpei. The person who had been terrified into leaving from Ninth Summit's premises was his clone. Right then, the one sitting in the palace was his real self, but even so, he knew all about the things that had happened to his clone, and it became the matter he was most wary of in arid triad expanse cosmos, though it was buried in the depths of his heart. And it was precisely that matter that made him to choose to stay in the Emperor of Abyss True World for a prolonged period of time. Based on what he knew, the terrifying existence in True Morning Dao world only cared about Ninth Summit. As long as he did not provoke Ninth Summit, the terrifying old monster would not come searching for trouble. Otherwise, his clone would not have been able to escape. Based on this, he could tell that the monster did not want to kill him, but even so, he still felt rather uneasy and anxious. Fortunately, nothing had happened to him over the past few months, and he felt slightly more at ease. But no matter what, he had already made his decision that he absolutely would not return to True Morning Dao world. Yang Lei smiled. His emotions did not show on his face, and his smile was incredibly faint. He lifted his right hand and placed a white piece on the chessboard. Just as he was about to speak, his expression changed. At that moment, the expression of the sublime paragon behind Xianxia changed. When he raised his head, he suddenly coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood, then stumbled a few steps backwards. He coughed up blood again. His injuries were clearly much worse than the Emperor of Abyss, because he was the sublime paragon of this true world. He was the only sublime paragon here, which was why the damage dealt to him by the will of the Emperor of Abyss True World when it roared with an unwillingness to admit defeat was the greatest. As for Xianxia, he noticed none of this. He was not a member of this true world to begin with. At that moment, he only frowned. He could sense that the true world was trembling, and he had also noticed that the true world's will was roaring because it had run into some accident. In silence, he closed his eyes. The moment he did so, his will covered an endless distance and went straight into the depths of the Emperor of Abyss True World. In it, there was a layer of fog resembling a vortex tumbling about. Seated at the center of the vortex was a figure. He was also Xianxia. When his eyes flew open, an ancient and freezing look appeared in them. The person here was his real self, and the person who had been playing against Yangpei had been his clone. The essence of this true world's will gathered into this vortex once I readjusted it many years ago. A new will can be born in it. My blood is in the vortex, and once this will is born, it will fuse with my body. Damn it, did some accident happen? Xianxia furrowed his brow. His divine sense spread out and swept through the Emperor of Abyss True World, but he did not find any clues. As for Su Ming, Su Xianyi could not see him. He could only see the Emperor of Abyss True World roaring and struggling in pain, as if its will was being possessed, but no matter how Su Xianyi searched, he could not find any traces of the True World's will being possessed. Could it be that it's because the will in this vortex formed by its essence is about to be born? It might have caused the will of the Emperor of Abyss True World to struggle. Deep in thought, Su Xianyi let out a cold harumph and closed his eyes. At the instant he did so, his other self from Abyss Paragon Palace opened his eyes. Some problems have appeared with this True World's will, the Sovereign of Dawn Yang Pei said faintly. He had already sent his divine sense out to scan the entire True World, but he did not detect anything wrong. However, he could tell that the will of the Emperor of Abyss True World was swiftly becoming weaker, as if it was rapidly dying, but even though it was dying quickly, if he factored in time, it would still need around 100 years before it truly perished. It's fine. It's due to something on my side. It isn't connected with the outside world. Lord Yang Pei, this game, Before Su Xianyi could finish speaking, a dark look appeared on his face. He looked into the distance, and his gaze seemed to see through space and into the planet serving as the capital of the Emperor of Abyss True World. All the preparations for the grand wedding were ready and on standby. Everyone was just waiting for his arrival. This was an important part in his plan that Su Xianyi had been planning for tens of thousands of years. He could not allow any accidents to occur, but right then, something unforeseen appeared. I knew that he would show signs of betraying me on this day. When Su Xianyi uttered those words in a cold voice, he stood up and wrapped his fist in his palm towards Yang Pei before bowing. A disciple of mine betrayed me, and he has followed me for many years too. Su Xianyi shook his head. All right, I understand what you mean, fellow Daoist Su. I will help you kill this person. Treat it as a reward for helping Dark Dawn's camp. As for the Abyss Builders, since I've already made my promise to you, I will definitely not go back on my word. We will not stay for long in arid Triad Expanse Cosmos. It is impossible for us to do so in any case. In the future, this place will only belong to the Abyss Builders. Thank you, Sovereign of Dawn. Su Xianyi bowed deeply to Yang Pei again, but only he could hear the cold laughter in his own heart. With how ambitious Su Xianyi was, there was no way he would be willing to be someone's subordinate. Using Dark Dawn's camp was just a temporary measure and only a branch of his plan, which was necessary for him to mend certain things, because his plan had diverged previously. They were only using each other. This was something Yang Pei knew as well. He watched Su Xianyi bow to him, and he laughed coldly in his heart too. The person before him was just a chess piece, and he was the player. No matter how important a chess piece was, it would not be able to stir up a storm in the player's heart. At most, he would just play another round. In the planet serving as the capital of the Emperor of Abyss True World was an incredibly large cultivation planet formed by using a great divine ability to merge nearly 1,000 planets together. Even from a distance, it looked incredibly huge, and if anyone stood on the cultivation planet, the feeling as if there was no end to the sky and earth would cause that person to feel as if the sky had been turned into the land. On the large cultivation planet was a boundless sea. There was a huge ancient tree growing out from its bottom, and there were more than 1 million cultivators there to send their blessings for the grand wedding held at the tree. The ancient tree was so large that each leaf was like a field. From a distance, the tree looked so tall that it touched the sky. In fact, there was even a legend surrounding the ancient tree. It said that the reason behind the merging of nearly 1,000 cultivation planets into a single cultivation planet was the discovery of the ancient tree. It was so old that it did not seem like it belonged to this time, but was from an even earlier age. In fact, there was a rumor saying that the tree was something from a previous eon. It had somehow avoided dying from the disaster and had survived until then. Of course, that rumor was not something an ordinary cultivator would know. Only Almighties who had a vague understanding of some of the history of Arid Triad could know something like that and spread the information around. Most of them also believed that this was close to the truth. A moment ago, there had been 1 million cultivators gathered on the ancient tree. They were all from the Emperor of Abyss True World's various families and had come to give their blessings, because the groom in the wedding was the third prince of the Emperor of Abyss True World. It did not matter whether it was because of his appearance, his cultivation base in Mastery Realm, or his status. This person had an incredibly noble status in the Emperor of Abyss True World. When all of these factors were lumped together, his presence was enough to make many people envious of him. Even though the third prince had some flaws, was once very tyrannical, and even had a ruthless and brutal reputation, all of this was in the past. During the past few years, his personality seemed to have changed. He was no longer tyrannical and overbearing, but had instead become level-headed. In fact, his appearance had also slowly changed, and he had gained quite the awe-inspiring air. It was as if he had grown up. This was something that was incredibly clear to all who saw him, and it caused many people to slowly take note of it during the last couple years. He might have seemed to be in Mastery Realm, but all the cultivators in Mastery Realm felt their hearts tremble when they were before him, as if they had been suppressed, and even those in Life Realm were affected. In fact, even the family elders of the 8 families belonging to the Kings of Abyss felt suppressed when they stood before the third prince, even if they were in Death Realm. The bride was not someone unknown to the public either. Her name was Xianxia, and she was a direct descendant of a king of Abyss whose family was destroyed in the past, the woman who ran from her marriage but still ended up standing before them. The place was bustling with activity. The sounds of human chatter were loud. Laughter reverberated through the air. Congratulatory words came from each family, and their voices rose and fell as the preparations for the wedding were completed. It was about to start, but that was something from a moment ago. At that moment, the will of the Emperor of Abyss True World roared, causing the hearts of all cultivators in the place to tremble. Then, as if the apocalypse had arrived, everything descended into chaos. An old man whose face was much older than in the past turned into a long arc without hesitation and charged out while the ancient roar rang in the air. Wherever he went, the world looked as if it was about to be torn apart. He rushed to the center, right where Xianxia stood, and stared into the distance numbly, like a puppet. Next to her was the third prince, who watched the chaos around him coldly and whose face was expressionless. Chapter 1292. Art of Time. Xianxia looked numb, as if she had already accepted her fate. She sat like a puppet and watched the chaos before her as well as the changes of expression on everyone's faces. The roars from the will of the Emperor of Abyss True World did not seem to affect her. It was as if she was not a part of this true world. She stared at the grey-robed old man charging towards her from the sky in the form of a long arc. He used the chance of the chaos to close in on her. The old man had white hair. His expression was filled with sadness, and there was determination on his face. This person was Mo Sang, Su Ming's elder. Mo Sang was no longer the young man Su Ming had seen in Morning Dao sect, but had instead turned into an old man. His appearance was the exact same as that of the elder in Su Ming's memories. The third prince of the true world sat calmly and watched Mo Sang approach. A hint of a complicated expression that no one else could see appeared on his face. This complicated emotion ran deep in him, as if it had seeped into his soul. He sighed in his heart, and the third prince shifted his gaze away, giving up on wanting to lift his hand and choosing instead to close his eyes. At the moment he closed his eyes, Elder Mo Sang approached Xianxia. "Go!" Elder Mo Sang grabbed Xianxia's left hand, and the resolute look in his eyes was reflected in Xianxia's own. She lifted her head and stared at him. With the same numb look still on her face, she shook her head. The sadness in Elder Mo Sang's eyes grew even more prominent. He raised his left hand and patted the center of Xianxia's brow. The numb look in her eyes was immediately shaken, as if she had started to struggle against something. At the same time, the elder pulled her into his arms and turned into a long arc that charged to a leaf on the ancient tree in front of him. There were 3 men in black robes there. In the face of the chaos around them, they only had cold looks on their faces. The light from a relocation rune shone under their feet. The third prince opened his eyes and watched Mo Sang take Xianxia away without saying a word. He watched them approach the leaf with the relocation rune during the chaos around them. As the light from the rune shone, their bodies became indistinct. He sighed softly, and the third prince mumbled in a tone that only he himself could hear, "The changes in this true world clearly show that he is here." Almost the moment the third prince mumbled to himself, Elder Mo Sang and Xianxia became nearly transparent from their previous indistinct state while they were on the leaf in the distance. At the instant they were about to be relocated, a cold harumph reverberated through the world with thunderous booms. At the instant the cold harumph was heard, Su Xianyi walked out of the sky. Behind him was the sublime paragon of the true world. Beside him was the black-robed sovereign of Dawn Yangpei, who looked cold and arrogant. The entire place fell silent. The 1,000,000 cultivators on the ancient tree had pale faces, but their wills no longer broke down because of the chaos in their cultivation bases. Instead, they regained some semblance of thought, though with much difficulty. The entire place felt as if a huge force had pushed down on it. Time. Reverse. A faint voice came from Su Xianyi's mouth. There was an unparalleled mighty pressure in his words, as if the laws that came from his mouth had to be enforced, and no one could question them. At the moment his voice rang in the air, the relocation rune where Elder Mo Sang and Yu Xian were immediately shuddered, and as if time had begun to flow in reverse, their figures gained corporeal form from their previous transparent state. In the blink of an eye, they appeared in the relocation rune once more. In fact, right after appearing on the relocation rune, Elder Mo Sang and Yu Xian began moving backwards. They rushed back to the third prince's side. When Yu Xian went back to sit in her seat and Su Ming's elder began moving back again to return to the relocation rune, Su Xianyi lifted his right hand and pointed at Mo Sang while standing in midair. Immediately, as the time in the entire place reversed, the elder's body stopped moving, as if he was a stone in a river that could not move. Threads appeared on his body. They bound him, for they were the marks of time. While time was flowing in reverse, changes also occurred in the 1,000,000 cultivators in the area. They returned to the state when their faces had filled with pain when the will of the true world roared, but soon, all of this changed. They returned to the state when the wedding was bustling with activity before the true world's will roared. This divine ability was astonishing. The area in which the time had reversed was not huge, but nearly 1,000,000 cultivators were involved. The shock brought by this scene was reflected on the face of the sublime paragon who stood behind Su Xianyi. His breathing quickened, and when he looked at Su Xianyi, great fanaticism and respect appeared on his face. In fact, even the pupils of Sovereign of Dawn Yangpei shrank slightly, but soon, a smile appeared at the corners of his lips. The stronger the chess piece he chose, the greater the benefits it would bring him. As expected of the Abyss Builders. There is indeed a reason behind why Great Abyss Tribe was known as one of the 3 strongest tribes in ancient Wei and stood on equal power with Great Berserker Tribe as well as Heavenly Spirit Tribe. Several breaths later, the reversal of time came to a halt, and everything returned to normal, as if the entire world had just been deceived. Su Xianyi had used his divine ability to manipulate time to change everything. This is a grand wedding, and we will not allow anyone to interrupt it. Today, my daughter will get married. I am very grateful that all of you have come to celebrate this occasion with me, and hence, we shan't let anything destroy our mood. Su Xianyi smiled faintly, then turned around and wrapped his fist in his palm to bow to Yang Pei, who was by his side. Sovereign of Dawn, please. Today, your daughter will get married. I am just a guest, so I cannot be the first to move. Fellow Daoist Su, you should not care too much about etiquette in this situation, Yang Pei said with a smile while laughing lightly. Su Xianyi had a smile on his face. He did not say much, and once he bowed, he walked with the Sovereign of Dawn Yang Pei to the third prince and Yu Xian. They stopped before the 2 people about to get married. The third prince's expression was the same. When he stood up, Yu Xian once more looked like a puppet whose strings were jerked. She got up, and the both of them bowed to Su Xianyi as well as the Sovereign of Dawn beside him. It was quiet all around them. The 1,000,000 cultivators in the area were stunned by Su Xianyi's divine ability, and even the Emperor of Abyss was not exempt from that. The third prince might be his son, but right then, he felt as if he did not have the right to speak or join this occasion. He wanted to walk over, but when the sublime paragon who was behind Su Xianyi cast him a flat glance, the Emperor of Abyss instantly felt his heart tremble. He quickly stopped himself and sighed in his heart. To him, this was not his son taking a wife, but Su Xianyi forcing his son to marry his daughter. Su Xianyi first cast a glance at Yu Xian, then at the third prince. A prideful look appeared on his face. When he looked at the third prince before him, a rare expression of affection could be seen within his smile. However, at the instant that look entered his face, he looked at Yu Xian, making it difficult for others to tell just who that affection was directed to. Since I have come to the wedding today, I will use this item to bless the newly wedded couple so they can be together forever. The Sovereign of Dawn smiled faintly. When he lifted his right hand, 2 bells appeared in his hand, and he placed them on Yu Xian's palm. "Thank you, senior," Yu Xian said softly with a numb expression and curtsied. By her side, the third prince bowed while remaining level-headed and thanked him quietly. Yang Pei observed Yu Xian. With his level of cultivation, he could tell with just one glance that there were a lot of seals placed on the woman. In fact, even her thoughts and soul had been sealed. When he shifted his gaze to the third prince, he found the young man's presence rather strange. However, the Sovereign of Dawn was not curious enough to pay any attention to it. With a smile, he looked at the 1,000,000 cultivators below him, and there was derision as well as scorn hidden beneath his amiable expression. He lifted his right hand and swung it. Immediately, Elder Mo Sang, who was bound by the threads of time in the distance, was brought to him. The elder's face was calm, but sadness would fill his eyes when he looked at Yu Xian. "Do you want to die after you witness this marriage, or right now?" the Sovereign of Dawn asked. His tone made it obvious that he was going to decide the elder's life and death himself. At the same time, Su Xianyi sat down at the top of the hall, right beside the Sovereign of Dawn. He did not even cast a glance at Mo Sang. Instead, he stared at Yu Xian and the third prince before him. Then, he shifted his gaze to look at the 1,000,000 cultivators, and a smile appeared on his face. "The wedding may begin." When he spoke, the sublime paragon took a step forward and walked to the left. He was to officiate the grand wedding. Beyond the planet serving as the capital of the Emperor of Abyss True World, the will of the True World was roaring. Its voice filled the entire True World, but the sound could not enter the dimension where the ancient tree and the sea was, because Su Xianyi had reversed the flow of time there. Su Xianyi, thus, did not see the long-haired and white-robed Su Ming walking towards that planet. Wherever he went, the Emperor of Abyss True World would roar in an even shriller manner, but it was already in its dying throes. Su Ming's will was slowly born in the Emperor of Abyss True World as its will slowly died away, and he gradually gained control. With harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos True Sky Hill World in his possession acting as the correspondence for the Emperor of Abyss True World, it was impossible for the True World's will to fight against its destined destruction. While going forward, Su Ming saw the bald crane and the Abyss Dragon sneakily leaving a cultivation planet in the Emperor of Abyss True World. They took away all the crystals in the planet, and even the crystal veins hidden underground could not escape the bald crane's claws. Feeling pleased and excited, the bald crane headed to another cultivation planet with the Abyss Dragon leading the way. Su Ming continued to walk forward with a calm expression. With each step he took, he would create an endless expanse of emptiness. His will had gathered in the space behind him, and it was so great that it suppressed the will of the Emperor of Abyss True World so greatly that it could not fight back. It could only let out the soundless roars while struggling with its last breath. The level of his cultivation base and will made Su Ming the strongest person in his eon, which gave him the right to overlook all manner of lives. Regardless of whether it was Dark Dawn, Saint Defier, or Arid Triad, there was no place Su Ming could not step into, and there were few people who could stop him. In silence, Su Ming stopped walking right outside the planet serving as the capital of the Emperor of Abyss True World. He stared at the huge cultivation planet formed by 1,000 planets before him, and he saw the ocean in it, the ancient tree, as well as the people on the tree. "I have come," Su Ming mumbled. Almost the moment Su Ming directed his gaze on the huge ancient tree, it hummed and lurched for the first time in the countless years it had existed in that eon. Chapter 1293. I did not bear witness to it as a butterfly. Harmonious Morus Alba had been made to stay in the boundless space for all eternity. No one knew just how many worlds had been born and grown to prosperity in it. This matter had been going on for so long that perhaps not even Harmonious Morus Alba itself knew about it. The repetitions of the eons, the lives that appeared time and again before they died from disasters were like the snow falling from the sky. Perhaps each snowflake was an eon and contained all manner of lives. When they landed on the ground, they would be buried in the land, but more would fall from the sky. As there was no end to the snow, there was also no end to all lives. Even if a person saw one land on the ground with their own eyes, they would never know just how many snowflakes had fallen from the sky in a snowstorm. It was the same for Harmonious Morus Alba, which was why it did not know how many worlds had prospered on its wings. There were 4 eras in the last eon, and Su Ming was in the 4th era. Perhaps in the future, When people tried to figure out what had happened in the past and looked through the history recordings, they would be able to find some traces of the marks linking to this era. They would contain hints connected to the 5 great true worlds of the 4th era. The rise and fall of the 5th true world, the coexistence of the 4 great true worlds, Su Ming's existence, the return of Dark Dawn and Saint Defier, all of these were the marks of the 4th era. Before the 4th era was the 3rd era, and Su Ming had found the marks of that era. They were the 9 great true worlds, Sui Chen Zi, Yikang, and Old Man Extermination. There were only 3 marks linked to the 2nd era, and they were Shu, Wei, and Wu. It had been an era filled with tribes and plagued by wars and slaughter. It was also the most prosperous era, when there were still antecedental spirits. The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe was the tribe elder of Heavenly Spirit Tribe. That era had been born due to a disaster, and it ended when Shu and Wu left, becoming Saint Defier and Dark Dawn respectively, and when Wei dissipated, the 9 great true worlds were formed. The old man from Heavenly Spirit Tribe was a person from the 2nd era. He was born at the final days of the 1st era, and he died at the final days of the 4th era. It could be said that he had nearly lived through every single era in his eon. When he was born, he was in the 1st era, a world in which the ancestral spirits existed. They taught all manner of lives everything they knew. As the ancestral spirits formed their own camps and divided themselves into 3, the era, which was born due to the disaster that descended on the previous eon, also ended because of a disaster. However, the disaster that fell on it was not the disaster of the eon that affected a huge area. It was what remained of the disaster that had wiped out the entire eon, and it only affected a small area. It destroyed all the people who did not merge with their other selves from harmonious Morus Alba expanse cosmos from the previous eon and had managed to escape the eonic disaster with a unique method, since it was regarded as cheating. They had been wiped out by the remnant of the eonic disaster, and hence, the 1st era ended. Yet before the people of that time died, they summoned the All Spirits Hall. The legacy of the hall started at that time. Before that eon and the 1st era in which the ancestral spirits lived, there were other items that remained for all eternity. They did not fuse with their other selves, but were still not destroyed, possibly because their continued existences were permitted by harmonious Morus Alba, and there was also a possibility that arid triads could not bear to see them disappear. One of them was a huge tree that had once lived on a planet many eons ago. There was once a teenage boy under that tree who talked about his grievances, love, friendships, and everything that happened in his life. Many years later, the tree grew up with the teenager, and with the teenager's help, it became an evergreen. One day, the teenager of the past grew into a middle-aged man, and he whispered a few words quietly under the tree, "I'm leaving. If I fail, then there will surely be others who will come searching for my path and continue down this road. If I succeed, then you will never be destroyed. On the day a will is born within you, you will know that I have succeeded." That teenager was Arid Triad. From then on, the tree lived through all eonic disasters and was never destroyed. When its will was born, it watched the sun rise and set, the planets change, the galaxies being replaced, and it knew that the teenager had succeeded, but occasionally, it would remember the past. It would remember the low murmurs of the teenager while sitting against its trunk. When the tree remembered the past, it usually lasted an eon. It could sense that the teenager had changed. He had become unfamiliar and terrifying, but his promise that the tree would never be destroyed had never changed. On that day, while it was reminiscing about the past, the tree suddenly sensed a pair of eyes in the galaxy looking at it. Their gaze made it feel as if it had just seen the teenager of the past, but when it thought about it carefully, it found that this person was not him. But the two people were very similar. This was not in terms of their spirits, appearances, or their blood. It was simply a feeling that they were similar. This familiar feeling came from the two's powerful conviction to become great and do things that no person in the past had done, which came from the heart and the desire to protect people and things they absolutely had to protect. Su Ming stared at the tree on the cultivation planet. He could see the ancient air about it. In fact, he could sense the great feeling of age. The heaviness of it made Su Ming instantly realize that the tree was not born in the last eon. With a step forward, he stepped into the planet and appeared above the vast ocean. He stood on the waves on the surface of the sea, right under the huge ancient tree, just like how the teenager from the past had stood a long, long time ago to speak of grievances that he could tell no one else. While standing there quietly, Su Ming could hear the cheers and laughter from the leaves, which were as large as grass fields, on the ancient tree's crown. The cheers were very fake, and the laughter filled with an obsequious tone. Each cultivator wore an invisible mask, and it would naturally change based on all the changes in the world. The masks of some people were very good. When they changed them, no one could tell the difference. Yet some people were still not very good at using them. When they changed their masks, they were not too adept, making mistakes. But to Su Ming, it was all the Samehe only saw a marriage of falsehoods. The bride had a numb expression on her face, and her entire body was covered in seals. The groom had an aloof face, but there was a complicated expression in his eyes that seemed to be filled with anguish. The Emperor of Abyss, who was the prince's father, could not even join the wedding. He had to watch quietly from a distance, and the sigh he could not let out turned into a sigh filled with various emotions in his heart. Even the sublime paragon no longer had the dignity of a powerful person. He had willingly lowered his head to become a witness to the absurdity. The father was no longer the father, and the son no longer the son. There was also the Sovereign of Dawn who was watching all of it with a cold, derisive sneer. To Su Ming, all of this was an incredibly hilarious joke. Only the elder Mo Sang was a color in the absurd situation that caused Su Ming to feel gentleness in his heart. Su Ming lifted his right hand and pressed it on the ancient tree. At the instant he came into contact with it, an old voice appeared in his mind. It spoke slowly, with long pauses between each word, which dissolved into lingering echoes in the air. "What is your name?" Su Ming was silent for a moment before he said softly, "Su Ming. Su Ming, you give me a feeling that you are the same as him." The ancient tree sighed as its murmurs echoed in Su Ming's mind. "He is Arid Triad. He told me that when my will is born, I will know that he has succeeded." Su Ming was silent as he looked at the ancient tree. In truth, he had already somewhat guessed its identity before he even came near it. There was definitely a reason behind why the tree could exist for all eternity in Arid Triad Expanse Cosmos. This reason was clearly not because the tree had fused with its other self, since all such existences were still asleep for the time being. Even if they could temporarily awaken using certain methods, it would be difficult for them to remain awake for all eternity. It was just like Su Ming had been very puzzled in the past as to why Di Qian wanted to hide in Yin Death Vortex and did not come out from it. However, once he learned that there was a certain group of people in the world who had fused with their other selves, which made them indestructible in the face of the disaster but put them to sleep for all time besides a total of 200 years 100 years before the disaster and 100 years after the disaster that would signal the end of an eon, Su Ming obtained his answer. Clearly, Di Qian was not Di Qian, and neither was he the sublime paragon of true morning Tao world. Perhaps a sublime paragon was indeed involved in this, but he had been reduced to a soul fragment after he fought against Su Xianyi. And that soul fragment might have satisfied certain conditions, which had allowed it become a clone formed by the Di Qian who was not Di Qian. Yin Death Vortex is a good place to sleep, Su Ming had said when he turned his head back and cast a scrutinizing glance at Yin Death Vortex before he left it behind and headed to Ninth Summit. "If you have the chance to meet him, please remember to tell him to come and see me. It's been a long time since I met him." The ancient voice of the tree rose and fell in Su Ming's heart as it revealed the sigh hidden within the words. "He can hear you. Perhaps, before long, he will appear," Su Ming said softly after staying quiet for a moment. He patted the ancient tree and raised his head before taking a step forward to walk towards the wedding on the tree crown. No one could see his arrival, be it Su Xianyi or the Sovereign of Dawn Yang Pei. If Su Ming did not want them to, no one could notice Su Ming's arrival. Except for the third prince. As the sublime paragon of this true world's congratulatory words for the wedding echoed in the air and he laughed, the third prince suddenly lifted his head and stared into the distance. Standing there, he saw Su Ming. There was a complicated and conflicted look on the third prince's face. When he looked at Su Ming also looked at him. Is the seed of life extermination really that important? When Su Ming looked at the third prince, he could no longer see the good-for-nothing young man of the past. Instead, he saw a familiar figure. Su Ming was not surprised by that person's existence. He had already learned of everything when he was in harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos. Before him was his childhood friend, his best friend when he was a teenager, his companion who patted his chest and told Su Ming loudly that he would protect Su Ming his entire life. Su Ming's voice echoed in the air, but it did not enter other people's ears. Only the third prince could hear him. He was silent, speechless, and filled with mixed emotions, which made him not know how to answer Su Ming. After a long while, Lei Chen shook his head and mumbled softly, "You don't understand. I now declare that all the families in the Emperor of Abyss True World will bear witness to the greatest wedding in our true world. It will also be witnessed by the true world's will." The sublime paragon of the true world could not see Su Ming, and he was still saying all the congratulatory words with a smile. The 1,000,000 cultivators present won the leaves could not see Su Ming either, and they were still cheering and laughing. Su Xianxia could not see Su Ming, and he was still watching the man and woman before him with an affectionate look on his face. The man was Su Xianxia's son, and the woman was the partner he had chosen for his son. It was a state of completion when the seed of life extermination received all its nourishment. The sovereign of Danyang Pei, too, could not see Su Ming. When he smiled, there was contempt in his heart. He lifted his right hand and was about to place it on top of Mo Sang's head to kill him so that red would appear in the wedding, just like how red would always be used in joyous occasions. But at that moment, "I will not bear witness to this." Su Ming's words echoed in the ears of all the living beings on the tree. His voice was faint, but at the instant it was heard, everyone felt like thunder had roared in their hearts, for it was a voice like the will of heaven. Chapter 1294. Lowly Su Ming's voice rumbled like thunder in the air. It spread in every direction, causing the hearts of the near 1,000,000 cultivators in the area to tremble violently. They shook at an intensity of the earth and mountains during an earthquake. Not only everyone began to shiver, but their cultivation bases were instantly thrown into chaos. They could not gather them at all. The 1,000,000 cultivators coughed up blood at once, and a bloody stench instantly filled the area. Patches of red also appeared on the leaves of the ancient tree. The pain the 1,000,000 cultivations in the Emperor of Abyss True World felt at that moment surpassed what they had felt when they were suppressed by the mighty pressure formed by the true world's will roaring. They felt as if their bodies were being torn apart and their cultivation bases were on the verge of exploding and surging out of their bodies. Shrill screams of pain rang out everywhere. The 36 generals of Abyss were all present for the wedding. Their levels of cultivation varied while ranging between Fate Realm to Life Realm, but no matter what level of cultivation they possessed, shock appeared on their pale faces at that moment. The 8 kings of Abyss were also there. They sat near the hall and were looking at the sublime paragon with smiles on their faces. At the instant Su Ming's voice echoed in their ears, their souls immediately shook. Their bodies jolted, and they could not control it. They felt as if their minds had been forcefully suppressed by a will to such an extent that it was difficult even to breathe. Even if they were in Death Realm, right then, they felt like helpless mortals in the face of a disaster. The Emperor of Abyss face went stark white at that moment. He held a tight grip over the leaf under him with his right hand. The buzzing sounds by his ears did not stop, and for a time, he could not hear everything around him. Compared to him, the sublime paragon was in a better condition, but there was also blood trickling out of the corners of his mouth. He staggered a few steps backward and lifted his head. Swiftly, he hid his shock beneath a ferocious look when he met eyes with Su Ming, who had walked out of thin air in the distance. Dressed in white, he looked like a cloud drifting elegantly in the sky. His long hair spilled over his shoulders like ink. His expression was one of indifference. His gaze was as calm as water, which came from seeing through all vicissitudes of life. He looked as if he had walked out of a picture, and he gave off an otherworldly air. At the moment he saw Su Ming, a brilliant light shone in Su Xianxia's eyes. His killing intent instantly rose to its peak as he glared at Su Ming, and his breathing immediately quickened. His hate for Su Ming had grown so deep that it was embedded into his bones. This hate was mainly due to Su Xianxia being forced to leave after he was defeated when the two of them had fought over possessing true Morning Dao World. The preparations he had made for years had all been in vain, and the effect of this event on his plans was quite great. If it was anyone else fighting over true Morning Dao World with him, his hate would not have been so intense, but Su Ming had been the one who fought over it against him, and Su Xianyi could not accept this. He could not accept that the boy who could only be used, who was discarded after he finished nourishing the seed of life extermination, and had even been stupid enough to think that he was his father, had snatched away Su Xianyi's true morning Dao world. To him, Su Ming was incredibly stupid and destined to be manipulated for his entire life. If Su Xianyi wanted Su Ming to live, he would live, and if he wanted him to die, he had to die. His destiny was bound to be controlled by Su Xianyi, and Su Xianyi could manipulate him at will. It did not matter whether Su Ming was in Dark Mountain, the barren lands of Divine Essence, Morning Dao Sect, or Arid Triad's Gap. In Su Xianyi's eyes, Su Ming had always been incredibly stupid. He could use Su Ming to the limit, until he no longer had any value. It was especially obvious when Su Xianyi fully used him up to nourish the seed of life extermination. Once he served his purpose, Su Xianyi would have killed him a long time ago if it had not been because Sang could not bear to see him die. He was an existence akin to an ant, and it was impossible for him to compare to his son, much less to Su Xianyi himself. Su Ming was a slave, and Su Xianyi was his master. When Su Ming had demanded why Su Xianyi had sent Yu Xian away in that incredibly ludicrous manner of his, Su Xianyi's real thought had been to laugh coldly and regard him with contempt, regardless of what his expression had showed at that time. Yu Xian was the second person Su Xianyi chose to nourish the seed of life extermination, and she was also the partner he had chosen for his real son. There was no way he would let Su Ming touch her with his lowly status. To Su Xianyi, while Su Ming was an abyss builder, he was destined to be a slave for his people. He was not worthy of the partner he had chosen for his real son. Everything was in his control. With one word, he could sentence Su Ming to death. This feeling had existed in Su Xianyi for such a long time that he could not accept Su Ming's sudden appearance when he was possessing true Morning Dao world. Su Xianyi was a fierce and ambitious person, so when Su Ming had defeated him, allowing him to only watch helplessly as the ant possessed true Morning Dao world with the preparations he had made for many years, the pain in his heart made him feel as if he was being torn apart. Su Xianyi could not heal that wound, and he did not want it to heal either. He had intended to pass true Morning Dao world to his son once he possessed it so that it would serve as the foundation for the abyss builders to rise to power. But all of this had been snatched by the lowly slave before him. The hate in Su Xianyi's heart made his killing intent reach a monstrous degree the moment he saw Su Ming. With a cold harumph, he sat up straight in his seat. His killing intent might have reached a monstrous degree, but Su Xianyi was not a rash person. In his eyes, Mo Sang had definitely made secret preparations for Su Ming to be able to appear in this place, and since Su Ming had dared to come, he had to have someone or something to depend on. I am here, and my beloved son as well as the Sovereign of Dawn are here as well. This boy will not be able to do anything. He did not know that Su Ming had gone to harmonious Morus Alba Expanse Cosmos, or else he would definitely be reacting differently at that moment. The moment Su Xianyi looked at Su Ming with a cold sneer, by his side, the originally arrogant-looking Sovereign of Dawn suddenly changed. His expression went through such an unprecedented shift that he shivered in his seat. Even his breathing quickened slightly. His pupils shrank, and shock as well as extreme terror filled his heart, making his skin crawl, and he instinctively wanted to stand up and run away. His light shudders surprised Su Xianyi, but when he looked at him, Yang Pei's expression had already returned to normal. His fear and shock had been hidden beneath a relaxed demeanor. With his level of cultivation, there were only a handful of people who could make him so terrified, and Su Ming was one of them, which was why when he saw Su Ming and heard Su Ming's words, he was horrified. The scene in True Morning Dao world a few months ago had been enough to completely intimidate the Sovereign of Dawn Yang Pei. He ignored Su Xianyi's gaze when he looked at him. Yang Pei fixed his eyes on Su Ming. When Su Ming spoke, he felt that his voice was slightly familiar, and when he appeared, the Sovereign of Dawn's heart had trembled violently. He might have never seen Su Ming before, but he would never forget his voice. That voice was like a nightmare in his mind. It belonged to a person who could determine his life and death with a flick of his wrist. The scenes beyond Ninth Summit still made him feel lingering fear when he thought about them. Yang Pei had no doubt in his mind that this person was the terrifying old monster who had made him utterly terrified when they were outside Ninth Summit. It's him! It's him! A voice screamed in Yang Pei's heart. He felt chills down his spine, and his hands as well as his feet immediately became cold, but he did not show a single hint of it on his face. However, a huge storm that had never appeared before had started raging in his heart. Damn it, I've already left True Morning Dao World and ordered all cultivators from Dark Dawn and Saint Defier to not provoke Ninth Summit. I don't even have the courage to take even half a step into True Morning Dao World again, so why? Why did he chase me down to this place? Yang Pei's face turned slightly pale. Countless thoughts immediately rose in his head, but right when they appeared, they were immediately crushed by the memory of Su Ming's terrifying power. No one could see the Sovereign of Dawn's emotions. Su Xianyi only saw the displeased expression on his face. He had a crease between his eyebrows as feeling some displeasure at such a matter. Sovereign of Dawn, it seems like we have embarrassed ourselves. This person is a lowly slave of mine, and today, he came here to destroy my son's wedding day. I will definitely have his blood spilt in this place. Su Xianyi's cold voice echoed in the air, and he turned his head to glare at Su Ming coldly. He did not know that his words had caused an even greater storm to rage in Yang Pei's heart. The intensity of that storm even surpassed what Yang Pei had felt when he saw Su Ming's sudden arrival. It almost caused the Sovereign of Dawn's expression to change drastically, and he nearly stood up in shock. You said that? You said that he is your slave? The storm raged in Yang Pei's heart, and as it roared, he felt that he could not quite wrap his head around what he was hearing. He once was. I pitied his lowly birth and gave him the status of a slave, but this boy did not know what was good for him and repaid my kindness with ingratitude. He destroyed my plans. The killing intent in Su Xianyi's eyes became greater. Yang Pei shuddered. When he looked at Su Xianyi, a strange emotion was hidden in his eyes, but at the same time, he released a sigh of relief in his heart, glad that the terrifying old monster had not come searching for him this time, but had instead come searching for Su Xianyi, who did not know how grossly he had overestimated himself. His lowly. If his lowly, then I've never effing saw a noble person in my life. If his lowly, then what am I? Who would dare say they have an even more noble status compared to him in all of Dark Dawn and Saint Defier? I would want to seek an audience with him, even if I am afraid that he would want to kill me. If I could obtain some guidance, I would definitely be able to gain a serendipity. Is this Su Xianyi mad, or does he not know the truth? How dare he say that this terrifying senior is of lowly status? He even dared to say that he is a slave. The Sovereign of Dawn Yang Pei stood up without hesitation and quickly took a step to the side to be further away from Su Xianyi. He was afraid that Su Ming would misunderstand him due to his seat at the wedding. Before he left, he did not forget to grab Elder Mo Sang, intending to take him as well. After all, he had promised Su Xianyi that he would personally kill this person. Despite what might happen, the principle he valued the most in his life due to his status as the Sovereign of Dawn was promises. In truth, he pitied Su Xianyi greatly in his heart. He was sure that the man did not know how terrifying the old monster before them was. For a moment, Yang Pei wondered whether he should give him a warning, but if he did, he might risk offending Su Ming. However, it would not be good for him to watch Su Xianyi sink into this mess, since he was the chess piece Yang Pei had chosen. The Sovereign of Dawn felt like he should do something due to moral obligations. Chapter 1295. You set me up. As the Sovereign of Dawn hesitated over what to do and his hand was about to touch Elder Mo Sang, Su Ming strolled over. A ripple of emotion appeared in his eyes, which had previously been as calm as water. That ripple instantly turned into a cold glare reminiscent of moonlight reflected off the surface of a lake when he cast a flat stare at the Sovereign of Dawn Yang Pei. Su Ming's footsteps came to a halt. A gentle look appeared in his eyes when he directed his gaze at Mo Sang. He seemed to forget his status and his level of cultivation at that moment, and instead felt like he was a child in Dark Mountain, a boy who laughed happily beside his elder. Su Ming wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed deeply. This bow was directed to his elder, to Dark Mountain, and how deeply Su Ming valued his relationships. I, Su Ming of Dark Mountain, greet my elder. The Sovereign of Dawn's hand came to an abrupt halt while he was in the middle of stretching it out. His expression immediately changed. He was completely stunned. Su Ming's bow and his words repeated in his mind non-stop, and he soon registered what was going on. An enraged, monstrous killing intent instantly arose in his heart, transforming into a roar that went straight into his head. "Damn you, Su Xianyi, you set me up." During that moment, the Sovereign of Dawn no longer thought about principles, and he threw all his moral obligations to the back of his mind. He immediately began to hate Su Xianyi to the core. To him, regardless of whether Su Xianyi did this intentionally or not, it was the same as Su Xianyi setting him up. He had almost driven Yang Pei to his grave, setting him up against this old monster who he had been fleeing from with everything he had. The Sovereign of Dawn did not believe that Su Xianyi did not truly know how terrifying Su Ming was. In fact, in Yang Pei's eyes, Su Xianyi definitely knew that Su Ming would come on this day, and he had dragged Yang Pei to his side and asked him to kill Su Ming's elder so that they would be bound together. Damn it! Damn it! Thank goodness I didn't kill him yet. The moment Yang Pei registered the situation, with his mighty power and the reaction he had as a Sovereign of Dawn, he was able to stop his hand from reaching Elder Mo Sang. Then, he did not hesitate to immediately touch the elder. But he only placed his hand on the elder. He did not grab him, but instead supported him gently, and it even looked like he had a great amount of reverence for the elder. The threads of time binding Elder Mo Sang immediately shattered. When they disappeared without a single sound, the Sovereign of Dawn Yang Pei helped the elder up with his right hand, and a gentle smile even appeared on his face. There was even a hint of respect in it. "I admire heroes like you the most in my life, fellow Daoist. Even if you knew that your level of cultivation was lacking, you were willing to risk everything for your family members. People like that must be respected. This is a gift and a lesson for any family. I am like that too. I have the same personality as you do, and I cannot bear with you being captured, fellow Daoist, which is why I interfered with this matter. I will definitely not allow someone like you to die before me. I acted so that I could save you. My fellow Daoist, I wasn't clear with my words just now. In fact, I even joked with you just now, because I am a guest Su Xianyi had invited with all he had. I might not be familiar with this person, but he had invited me to this wedding after showing me great hospitality, so I had come here reluctantly, but I did not expect myself to meet someone like you here. This trip was worth it. That joke was to test whether you are truly a hero. Right now, I am certain of it. Fellow Daoist, I hope that you will not mind the words I said to you earlier. I hope that someone like you will accept a bow from me." Yang Pei's expression was incredibly sincere, and his words sounded as if they were truly what he had in mind. As he spoke, he took a few steps back, wrapped his fist in his palm, and bowed deeply to Mo Sang. Mo Sang was stunned. When a barely noticeable glint appeared in his eyes, the Sovereign of Dawn lifted his head and stared coldly at Su Xianyi, who was frowning and looked a little surprised. "Fellow Daoist Su, I did not expect that you were someone like this. Sovereign of Dawn." Su Xianyi's pupils shrank. Yang Pei had changed sides so quickly that Su Xianyi's heart let out a thump. Before he could even finish speaking, his words were cut off by Yang Pei. "You disappoint me too much. If your daughter does not want to marry someone else, then why must you place so many seals on her? Not only did you seal her thoughts, you even sealed her soul. How could you treat your own family like this? You are practically trying to curry my favor, but you disappointed me. I am ashamed to be associated with you. Treat my actions as me sticking my nose into someone else's business, but I have long since been unable to tolerate this. I have reached the end of my patience." As he spoke, the Sovereign of Dawn successfully stole Su Ming's limelight. He became the center of everyone's attention. Then, he lifted his right hand and pointed at Yu Xian. The bells he had given Yu Xian started shuddering on their own, and when they knocked against each other, they let out a string of clear ringing sounds. Every single time the sound echoed in the air, a look of struggle would appear on Yu Xian's face. Clouds seemed to cover her eyes, but they were swiftly swept away by the wind. Clarity slowly appeared in her gaze, and when the ringing of the bells ended, Yu Xian shuddered. All the seals on her body disappeared without a trace, and she regained her mind. When he saw this, Yang Pei released a sigh of relief in his heart, feeling fortunate that he had given her the bells as a gift earlier. By doing so, everything he did could be backed by evidence, and no one would be able to find any clear problems with his actions. He should not have offended that terrifying old monster too much. As clarity appeared in Yu Xian's eyes and her body shuddered slightly, she remembered many things. After all, Yang Pei was a sovereign of dawn. When he took action, he did not just wipe off the seals placed on Xianxia in the recent years. He had wiped off all the seals in her body, which had been placed on her since many years ago, causing Xianxia to truly regain a clear mind for the first time after being lost for a long period of time. She immediately looked at Su Ming, who was standing not too far away and watching everything with a ghost of a smile on his face. After the single glance, she could no longer look away. Tears filled her vision and made the world before blurry, but that one figure in the world remained clear. It belonged to a person who remained clear in her mind no matter how many cycles of rebirth he went through. Her childhood memories rose in her head. The thin and frail teenager lying silently was her older brother. He was not her family, but he was someone who was closer to her than family. He grew up with her and accompanied her every day. He was her older brother who could not speak and open his eyes. He was the most important family to her. She remembered that she stayed by his side and spoke to him about the blue sky, the darkness during night, her training, her grievances, her future. She held his hand so that his cold hand could slowly gain bodily warmth. During that period of time, she was very happy. Training might have been difficult and she might have been bullied and mocked by others, but she had remained strong. She wanted to protect her older brother his whole life. Yet one day, she was taken away. She still remembered that when she cast a final glance at him before she left, he was still lying there without moving. He could neither open his eyes nor his mouth. On that day, she cried. The person who took her away told her that if she was obedient, he would wake up, so she chose to be obedient and leave. After that, it felt as if an eternity had gone by. That period of time seemed to be too far away from her now, so far away that her memories about it had become unclear. In truth, they had become faded away not because of her will. Instead, due to an unknown reason, she had completely forgotten about her past. She became a direct descendant of a family in the Emperor of Abyss True World. She had a father, a mother, and other family members. She was very happy during that period of time as well, but every single time night fell and everything was quiet, she would have a feeling as if she had forgotten the most important person in her life. But no matter what, she could not remember that person. The shadow of a person's back would often appear in her dreams, but it was muddled, and she could not see it clearly. On the day her mother returned to Earth, she wept while watching her mother gradually close her eyes. During that moment, on her deathbed, her mother stared at Xianxia with a look that spoke volumes. Her gaze was filled with compassion and a reluctance to part, and after appearing to ponder whether she wanted to speak, she said a few words. The meaning for Xian is daylily. You are a daylily in the rain. I want you to forget sadness in your life and be happy forever. She had been ignorant of the meaning of that sentence in the past. Later on in the future, she always thought that she had understood what it meant, but only during that moment did she know the profound meaning behind those words. Perhaps it was the figure in her dreams, or perhaps it was due to the emotions in her memories that could not be sealed no matter how strong the seal was, but before her wedding, she fled. While feeling lost and not knowing where to go, she had returned to true Morning Dao world by a stroke of chance. She also remembered that when she fled and captured the Abyss Dragon, she seemed to have seen a figure, but when she turned her head back to look, she saw nothing. When she thought about it after all that time, she knew that the figure she had seen was that of her father's. He had been watching her in silence from not too far away. He watched her leave as if sending her off with a great reluctance to part. During the days Su Xianyu was in isolation, Xian had went to true Morning Dao world to search for the feeling she could place her finger upon, and it had brought to the place in which she was born in Death Vortex. It was not her personality that caused her to immediately stick close to Su Ming when she saw him while not feeling a single hint of unfamiliarity towards him. It was because the aura of her life had affected her sealed memories. She did not know that once she appeared before Su Ming, the voice calling out to him as its older brother which he only heard in his dreams gradually disappeared. Xian remembered everything from her birth to the present. All her memories appeared in her head at that instant. Once the seals vanished, she stared at Su Ming with a dazed look, and tears that seemed to have come from thousands of years ago fell from the corners of her eyes. I am Xian. I am a daylily in the rain. My father is the second god of berserkers. My home is in the land of berserkers. Xian mumbled. She lifted her head, and when she looked at Su Ming again, She bit her bottom lip and whispered two words that once echoed in Su Ming's dreams for many years. Big brother. Su Ming approached her. There were few forces of power who could stop him now in arid triad expanse cosmos. When Yu Xian raised her head, Su Ming had already arrived before her. He gently embraced her crying form. I promised you that I would one day come and find you. Today is that day. Su Ming caressed Yu Xian's long hair. When he spoke, he raised his head and looked at the silent third prince standing beside them. The two of them met each other's gazes, and Su Ming saw the complicated look in the third prince's eyes, while Lei Chen saw the sentimentality in Su Ming's eyes.